So how are you guys doing? Lovely. Or as they say in London, lovely jubbly. Jubbly. Go ahead. Is it a longer question or is it a quick one?
Wouldn't you say that it's everyone's goal to enjoy life?
So the question is, wouldn't you say that it's everyone's goal to enjoy life? No. Honestly, it depends how you mean enjoy life. For some people, it'll be just having peacefulness and tranquility. If you want to reframe that as meaning to enjoy life, sure. It's just, what is it that enjoying life means to them? Does that make sense? So you can't put your label on someone else's experience because they're like, no. It's not about enjoying life. It's about doing the right thing by your family. Well, that's how they enjoy their life, if you see what I mean. Right? So you're kind of right, but I don't want to get confused with the labels because otherwise you start putting your fish in their dreams and then you get very Freudian. You know where that ends up, right? With cigars that you don't know to be smoking. Come up here. Exactly. Unless you're Freud.
It's not labor, it means that final emotion. It's always enjoy life. Even that who smoke, that he also enjoy life.
So the question is, if like the ultimate emotion is always enjoy life. Yeah, I mean, really, different people will have different labels attached to it. So for someone, their associations around the idea of enjoyment might mean things like fun and bouncing up and down, but what they really want out of life is just peacefulness and tranquility. Now, you and I might say that that person's enjoying life by being peaceful, but that label, that word, enjoying life, might mean something different to them than it does to you. Does that kind of make sense to you guys? Yep. Because their associations are different to it. So it's not the idea that I'm warning about. I think the idea is actually a very good one. It's a very insightful one. It's more the label, so you don't go, oh, I just have to find out how someone's enjoying their life more. That won't necessarily be it. Plus, the other thing you have to bear in mind is, because these are context dependent, you're looking whether things are inside that context that they want, right? So you might miss the idea of a fast car, or an elegant car, or a racing fire red car, because you're too busy looking for something that's already, you know it's going to be there at some level. Make sense? Does that make sense to you guys? And the reason we're looking for the actual words, anyone know why I'm looking for the actual words?
That's their hot words.
It's their hot words. Actually, it's their personal trance words, right? It has special significance to them. It just points right into this huge well of positive emotions for that person. So their phrase is going to be very important. Make sense? Everyone good? Go ahead.
What I noticed is when you're, eliciting these values and asking the questions and listening to the responses, you can actually sort of hypnotically guide the person where you want them to go and make them believe that some of the ideas are their own and slowly like meld them into a new way of thinking.
You guys are just way ahead of the game, aren't you? So what you're describing is what I would call installing values, or you can massage values, whatever you want to think about it. Let me put it this way to you. Anyone here an expert in their field? Anyone? Right? Do you ever notice that clients will come to you for your expertise, but then tell you how to resolve their problem in a way that actually won't resolve their problem? Have you ever noticed that? As a lawyer, you get that all the time. People used to come in and say, I want to have this special purpose vehicle for launching my Euro notes or whatever. And, just a simple question like, you can say, great, we'll do it. And then they'll do it and they get really annoyed you've done it. Like, we did what you asked us to. But really what they're thinking of is that this will be a great tax-saving device for all these different reasons. What they haven't realized, of course, is those rules do not apply to them. So now they've created a tax burden when they look for a tax break. And your job as a lawyer would be to ask them, what are you trying to achieve by that? Does that question sound somehow familiar? Right? And once you know what they're trying to achieve, then you can start doing what you're doing, saying, what's important about that, saving tax, and so on and so forth. Oh, so it's really important about saving tax. Did you realize that this, and this means that this will cost you more than that? That this will actually be more effective for getting your taxes cut? This will actually increase taxes for these reasons. People go, wow, no. Here's a little tip for how to create this installation, in other words, to reframe people's values. Essentially, you tell them an insider secret. Right? If you tell someone an insider secret, something that it probably will not be told by others, the trust level for you goes way up, and in doing so, the reliability of the new value goes up too. Now, I'll use again the used car example just because it's a stereotype and it's, you know, other than law and therapy. Sorry, thank you very much for that idea. It's an easy environment for people to navigate through, right? So if someone buys a used car, and I don't know much about cars, but let's assume that there is one of the classic things that goes wrong with a used car might be the brakes. I don't know if it's true or not, but let's assume that just for the purpose of the illustration. Is that okay with you guys? So someone comes in and says, I want to use, you know, I'm buying a car, and says, what's important to you? Oh, well, you know, it's got to be cheap, it's got to be economical, but it's got to drive, right? Okay, great. Well, you know, we've got a lot of things that might fit that bill and so on. It'll be really, you know, it's in the economy department and so on. One thing you should know, and really, my boss doesn't like me telling you about things about this. You'll probably never hear this in another used car place, but you seem like a really decent person, and you really should know this. The biggest problem with a used car is the brakes can fail, right? And for these reasons and so on. So whatever else you want to have in a car, will find the right thing for you. But please make sure that you have a special warranty for the brakes, because without it, your car is useless. I mean, think about it. It goes fast, but if it doesn't stop, it's not the best car in the world, is it? Right? Do you see how I've installed a new value in him now? Now, if your shop or center happens to have like guaranteed brakes with extra, you know, some kind of national certification of you know, standard of certification and so on, does that not lift your cars way above the crowd of all the others? Because you just installed a new value, he's accepted it, and you happen to be able to provide it too. Do you see how that works? So I'm guessing that's the kind of, where is he sitting now? You've kind of hidden yourself from me. Oh, there you are. Hi. How are you doing? It's kind of like finding, where's Waldo? Like, okay, there's faces everywhere. But that's the kind of thing that you were talking about as well. Like, as they're talking about it, you suggest or you massage and go, oh, that's kind of like this. Is that what you meant? No, but now that I think about it, that's a pretty good idea. You see how this becomes very malleable? It's actually very useful as well. Especially when you leverage values on themselves. For example, with enjoying life, right? If he wants to buy a car just to be able to get out there and meet people and enjoy life, and I need to introduce the idea of brake safety as a value, how might I do that? Any ideas?
You want to make sure that you're going to be safe to reach the people you're
So,
in touch with.
so you're saying you want to make sure that you'll be safe so you can reach the people you're in touch with? Yeah. But I'm a little bit, I don't know, cheeky, and I like to really leverage values against each other. And I say, listen, how much are you going to enjoy life, and how much of a force for good will you be in this world when you get somewhere where you can start interacting with people and you start running them over because your brakes have failed?
That's cheating.
This is a little cheating, isn't it? But you see how I'm creating a vivid mental picture where he's violating his highest value because he hasn't considered a new value that I really need him to consider. Do you see how that works? It's kind of like someone coming up to saying to me, when I'm starting as a hypnotherapist, saying, you know, why are you doing this work? Well, it's because I can have, you know, it's part of lifestyle, so I can do something where I feel I'm actually making a difference in people's lives, and you know, I can control my own hours. So it's the reasons I went into hypnotherapy. Plus, I'm fascinated in the field. If someone had said to me at that point, so tell me, how much value are you offering people's lives when no one knows enough about you to come and see you? Huh? Well, think about it. If your marketing sucks and no one actually knows about you, they're not actually going to come and sit in your chair so you can have the wonderful effects of hypnotherapy. How do you feel about that? Not particularly good. So you're telling me that is you know, that the idea of marketing is important enough to actually go out there and find out how to do it properly, so that you can be, so you can actually do something positive in other people's lives, so you can be proud of the work you've done at the end of the day. Hell yes. Do you see again how now that we started having the higher values, we can use them to leverage in new values that they may not have considered, but have to, because you know in your field that people will typically ignore them, but actually they're more important. Does that kind of make sense? And this, by the way, is also how you overcome the typical objections. Anyone here ever heard the objection, it costs too much? Anyone? Oh, yeah. Right? Let's say someone's value is their family, right? I want to protect my kids. My kids, you need to have a good future and so on, right? And let's say you're offering them a car and so on, and they say, oh, it costs too much. I understand the safety brakes and so on. And he goes, I understand. It costs too much. But tell me, how high a price are you willing to put on the safety of your children? I mean, you can get a normal car, normal standards, and they're good. This car has everything, side impact cars. So if that drunk driver comes and hits you on the side of the road, your children are safe. It has the whole braking system so that even in bad weather conditions, if you have to stop at on a dime, your children are safe. It has this, makes your children safe. This, your children safe. Do you see where we're going with this? You are leveraging their values to introduce things that they need to be considering because it's not if it's not part of their mental map, they're actually missing out. And you will probably be doing them a disservice by not doing so, because you'll give them what they want, what they've asked for, but not what they actually need, what they'll come back to you for as a trusted advisor, as a trusted source of valuable things. Does that make sense to you guys? Now, of course, what I'm not suggesting here, by the way, is the abuse of this, so that you're selling someone something totally ridiculous and unnecessary just because you can. Because where's the trust going to go when they come back and start reasoning through, well, actually, all these gimmicks and gadgets aren't necessary to keep my children safe. Who needs a flashing light bulb inside the car? How the hell is that going to keep them safe? So once they start, especially when other people start talking to them about things, if they suddenly realize that you sold them something which they do not need, where's that trust level going to go, up or down? It's going to go way down, way below anything you've had before. The rule with trust is this. For most people, it's relatively easy to get trust. Some people have trust issues, I understand that. But for most people, it's relatively easy to get trust. Once you lose trust, it's very hard to get it back. Does that make sense? Yep. Never violate someone's trust, whether it's an implied promise. Even in fact, if you think you've made an implied promise by accident, make sure you clarify that you're not making that promise or that you are, so that it's totally above board. And you get some kind of commitment up front from them so they know this is what I'm signing up for and nothing else. Right? Does that make sense? It keeps you ethical, but also it keeps your relationship alive. And let's face it, most interactions you have with people are about the relationship. If they like the one car, they'll send friends to buy a car. They'll come back and buy a new car as well. They'll get upgrades from you if you happen to have the car and a repair service as well. They'll trust your repair service more because you sold them a good car. Do you see how all that stuff escalates? If you only think about the one trial, get this, get this, get this, your ability to influence actually decreases significantly. Has anyone ever here been in a shop wanting to buy something? You knew exactly what you wanted, a pair of shoes, a certain dress, a TV set. You knew exactly what it was. You went in, you wanted to buy it, and you had this salesperson come up and talk to you so much about stuff you did not care about, you felt so uncomfortable, you went next door to buy it there instead. Anyone ever done that? Yep. It's a relatively common thing. And the reason for that is because they had their agenda too strongly inside their minds. This allows you to put not your agenda in there, but their agenda in. What do they need? What do they think they need versus what they actually need? And then you can have the two put together and you build a proper, persuasive piece of communication. Your frames flow from this. Does that make sense? Yep. Now here's the good news. In virtually every field that you go into, these values will be patterns. In other words, the individual expressions may be slightly different words, it's still worth finding them. But the things that people really are looking for will be really, 4 or 5 types of things. So you'll have, it's almost like there's 4 or 5 types of people in the world that'll come back repeatedly and ask the same questions, have the same objections, have the same needs or wants, think they want one thing but really need another. Does that make sense to you guys? In virtually every field, there'll be certain kinds of personalities, and it won't be more than 4 or 5 or so, and they'll all be in the same group. They'll all share similar things. And as soon as you identify what kind of person it is, your sales process becomes that much quicker because you already understand what kind of person they are, what they need, and so on. You can guide them through the questioning process more easily to confirm, and you already know how to reframe and how to pre-frame things so that they don't become a problem. In other words, the problem evaporates before they've even thought about it. Does that make sense to you guys? It does, however, require experience. In other words, if it's the first time you're in that context, you're just going to have to go through something like this. You're going to have to make your mistakes. You're going to have to learn as you go along. But the longer you're in a field, the easier it is to actually figure out what these things are. Does that make sense to you guys? You had a question?
Yeah, I noticed from my experience, if
Do you want to come up here? Is it a longer question? It just makes it easier otherwise. Okay.